Hey guys, Youngblood back with you, pre-recording an episode of Yawing and Jawing so I could make sure that I was getting you guys some content while I was on my little vacation. So, yeah, hopefully I'll be able to check the comments on all this. This is during an alert on Watterson, so, well, nope, Matherson I should say. So, I think where I left off on the last one was with the question, is PS2 dying? And it's a complicated question, but the answer to, in my mind is no, it's not dying. Now, it's not seeing a ton of growth by any means. And what I mean by that is I don't think we're seeing a lot of new players. I think they're doing a good job of putting new stuff into the game. It's keeping people interested, I think, for the most part. But what's scared most people off to this point has really been in regards to the performance. And, like I said before, people with average machines and up have a hard time with this game. It's just how it is. And the optimization that we talked about in the last thread, in the last video, I think is something that's a really good step. I think it's something that's going to help get more people interested in playing the game and probably grow the overall base a little bit as far as who's actually playing and how many more people come in. So no, I wouldn't say it's dying by any means, but there's certainly opportunities there for how we can increase the player base. Things like the tutorial go a long way. The more people that we can get into this game, the better, because we all like playing with bigger... There we go. We all like playing when there's, a lot of people on it. It can be boring otherwise. So I'm excited to see what actually happens with that. But no, I don't think it's dying. And I think they're putting in some cool stuff that, wasn't in the game before. And, new vehicles. And the more they keep implementing, the better it's going to be. I see you hiding back there. The scythe photon cannons are so different from the other two factions. Firing at the same time is awesome and a curse at the same time. It's really nice being able to do a lot of damage really fast, but it's a lot less forgiving. And I guess that kind of takes me to one of the other questions that somebody asked, and that was basically how do you highlight the strengths of each vehicle and mitigate the negative sides of them? And they're talking about the ESFs. And I think it's just important to remember what's actually good about each vehicle. Now, when we're talking about the Mosquito, it's fast and agile. So for me, I don't feel like it really needs, the racer frame. I don't think it needs the dogfighting frame. It's one of those ones to me that really benefits from having the, hover frame. The hover frame is currently the best option for all three in my mind. So that's the one you're pretty much always going to see me using. But it's for the Mosquito, it's a really good match. It pairs up well. Now, with the Mosquito, keep in mind, it's got a small hitbox, and it's really, really small towards the front. So one of the best things that you can do is your weapon doesn't do as much damage as the other factions. Now, how can you kind of highlight your advantages and mitigate your downside? Hold on. Okay. How can you highlight your advantages? Keep the small front of the Mosquito facing your enemy. Not only, and what I'm talking about is in dogfights, the spinning dogfights where you're facing your opponent and spinning around each other. Kind of like, this. I'm shooting, they move. I'm shooting, they move. I'm shooting, you move. You keep your front towards the enemy as much as possible. That's a good plan of attack for all three, but especially for a craft like the Mosquito where your weapon doesn't do as much damage, but you can put more sustained fire on. That's a real key to success. Now, the Reaver, it's got a huge hitbox. It's a flying brick. It's just how it is. Now, in exchange, it gets a high damage weapon. The Vortec Rotary is fantastic to use. So, number one tip for the Reaver is if you're not using the Vortec Rotary, you're pretty much doing it wrong. Not only can you pair it with any of the other options and still give you the best bet, even with the changes to the other nose guns, I still feel like it's the best way to go. And let's split before we take too much more damage. What do you suppose that is? thinking it's a turret. Hold on, I need to look at the map and see what territories we own so I can plan my attack. Yeah, I know I'm taking damage. I can't really get up there without cutting through here, but we can stop by Regent Rock. So, I mean, you know, like I said, with the Reaver, number one thing is obviously going to be using the right nose gun. That's going to be your key. Now, it really, really thrives when afterburning situations come into play because it has the most thrust and it's got the best afterburner of all of them. So knowing that, pairing yourself up with the external afterburner pods is an excellent choice. So for me, Reaver with the afterburner tanks is the best category. It's going to get you the most bang for your buck, and it's going to highlight your strength. You know, with the Reaver, again, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a point where you can do a lot of damage as quickly as possible. And again, that's going to be, whoa. I'm not sure what type of turret or tank that was, but I didn't like it. So knowing that, again, it's going to be important to keep your gun on target while you're dogfighting. Now, that's a tip for all, so I'm not, like, giving you guys anything, like, super special there. This is stupid. That you wouldn't be able to figure out on your own. But a good tip regardless. And then with the Reaver as well, with it lacking in mobility, you know, flying with a wingman is also really helpful. Especially if you get a really good Mozzie or Scythe pilot, the chances of them outmaneuvering you are pretty high. And you can kind of use the, you know, having a wingman that you can use to help you out of those situations is really important. Another thing is, yes, you do have a really good, you know, afterburning abilities. You know, it's the strong point of the Reaver, but it doesn't make up for the speed of the Mosquito. Now, the Scythe is slow and feels kind of sluggish unless you're just talking about general maneuvering. But don't let yourself get pulled into a situation where you're going to try and follow a Mosquito into enemy territory. It's a good way to get yourself waxed because you're going to all of a sudden find yourself with a bunch of other Mosquitoes or AA turrets or whatever it may be. So, play smart when you're doing that. Let's lighten up over there. Heal, hide behind the tree. You're a leaf on the wind. Oh. Lightning spot. Well, fail there. Whoop, whoop, whoop. For any pilot, it's always good to remember that the cannon of a Vanguard is probably about the worst thing that you can find in a bad situation. So, don't let yourself get into a position where they're going to be able to get your target or get you on target because it will kill you fast. Alright, and then as far as the Scythe goes, look at the top of this thing. You see how flat it is? You're a flying pancake, basically. Now, that's a strong point and a weak point all at the same time. If somebody sees you from the side or the front, there's not a big cross-section to shoot at. Your hitbox is pretty small. That's great. Use that to your advantage. When you're dogfighting, you don't want to let them get to a point where they can see the top or bottom of your craft. Now, think about it. If you're hovering and keeping your front on target, remember what I was talking about? You've got a small hitbox, you're harder to hit. Try and keep yourself balanced. You want to avoid situations where you're showing them like that. You know, especially when you're turning against them, because that's a huge hitbox. And even somebody with average or pretty poor aim will have a pretty good chance of success at taking you out. So that's the big thing. Now, the Scythe is the one of the three that I think can really be kind of successful with a couple of different airframes. Oh, reload wasn't ready. I like to use the dogfighting airframe, which highlights the attribute of agility. I like to use the hover, which encourages the, which helps you with your maneuvering. The racer's okay. It's a slow vehicle in general, so having the, that there as an option for you is really helpful. Oh, speaking of bad situations. Now, I don't know if you guys remember in an earlier video, I said that in general it's a bad idea to just try and run. That's a very general point that I made there, and I want to explain. Like, you've seen me run a couple times in these sessions. And this was a good example. Yeah, I saw one Reaver that was peeling off and turning towards an area where there was a lot of AA. He also had a friendly over there that was ready to do some damage as well. Oh, this guy's having a bad day. Alright, come on. I don't know how that other side could see him. There we go. So, knowing the situation, if you're gonna be... Just know what's on both sides. If you continue forward and continue engaging the enemy, are you getting into a better or worse situation than you could possibly be in if you were running away? Now, in that situation there, I knew I had friendly forces behind me, so their fighters would be less likely to try and pursue me. And if they did, I would have help. Vice versa, if I continued on my path and kept trying to engage those guys, what would I have been dealing with? 4 AA turrets, burster maxes, maybe a sky guard, and a bunch of small arms fire, not even including the other vehicles? Yeah, no thanks. Boom goes the dynamite. So, yeah, sometimes it's just about playing smart and making sure that you're keeping yourself out of bad situations. Holy vehicles! Oh, speaking of in-car turrets and putting yourself in bad situations, there you go. Bad example number one from STLYoungblood. So, hopefully you guys learned a little something and enjoyed that, and I will have another one for you soon. Take care.